Just to kind of situate us of where we are in the year, obviously Christmas is over. We're into ordinary time. This is the third Sunday in ordinary time, but Lent, fast approaching. Ash Wednesday this year is on February the 14th. For Valentine's Day, you get to fast. It's beautiful, the Lord's timing sometimes. But the Gospels these days speak to us about just the ordinary life of Jesus, his teaching, his healing, and in the case today, his calling of the disciples. I've been thinking all week about a quote I heard years ago, and it comes from a gentleman named Paul Harvey. And those of you on the older side of life will remember Paul Harvey as a radio personality, a radio newsman. And he had this kind of wonderful radio voice that just made you want to listen to him. And he was kind of famous. He had this line at the end of his reports where he would give a news report, and then at the end he would say, "And now you know the rest of the story." That's what he was famous for. But he was also a Christian. He did not share our Catholic faith, but was a Christian who had a lot to say about Christians and the practice of Christianity. And he famously said one time, speaking about this gospel, this is Mark chapter 1, where Jesus calls the apostles to become fishers of men. Paul Harvey said, "Too often these days, we have gone from being fishers of men to being keepers of the aquarium." Fishers of men who go out and try to bring people in versus keepers of the aquarium that are just sort of maintaining. And it's a pause, I think, for us and an opportunity for some self-reflection as we think about the church as a whole, as we think about our parish, as we think about each of our efforts to take on the task that the Lord gives us to become fishers of men. And I think the challenge is, what kind of parish do we want? What should the church look like? Do we want it to be people that we know and like and live near and work with? Do we want the parish to be kind of a controlled environment where I get to sit in the same place and nobody else can sit there? It's my spot. Do we want the kind of parish where you know everyone? And now you might say, well, that'd be a good thing if I knew everyone. Wouldn't that be great? And on one level, yes. There's something beautiful in the life of a church when people know each other. I have a good friend in Tulsa. He goes to St. Benedict's in Broken Arrow. And one of the things he decided to do, he and his family sit in the same place each week, and they have for probably 20 years. And as his family has grown, he's decided that he wants to get to know the people that sit around him. So I don't know if you're in your same spots. Some of you are. See, some of you have kind of moved around a little bit. I know exactly where you sit every week, just so you know. Well, what he decided to do was he had what he called a pew party. So he showed up one Sunday, and he had invitations, and to the people sitting in front of him and the people sitting behind him, he invited them all over for dinner. He didn't know any of their names. They'd been sitting near each other for years and years. He just simply passed out these invitations. They came to his house, and everybody got to know each other, right? There's a place for that in the life of the parish, to know each other, to see friends, to see family, to see acquaintances. That's a good thing about a parish. But it also can be a danger if we want the parish to just simply be the people that I know. It should excite us when a stranger comes to the parish. It should be interesting and exciting when someone you've never met sits by you or walks through the door. But sometimes it's just out of just comfort, maybe it's out of fear, we like to have a controlled environment. We do it with our homes, we do it at work, we do it in the church, where we become keepers of an aquarium that's self-contained, rather than something that's open to the outside, wanting to bring people in. But it gets to the very question and the heart of what are we doing here? What is the purpose of this parish? And it's twofold. Of course, it's to make friends, to meet people, to build a community of people that we know and love and can trust. But it also has to be about becoming fishers of men, about going out and bringing people in who need to be here. Just statistically, there are about 90,000 people in Payne County, Oklahoma. There are in this parish, at last count, 1,031 registered households. We're not even close. There are so many people that you go to school with and work with, that you live near, who would benefit, who would greatly benefit from being here, from hearing the scriptures, from learning about our beautiful Catholic faith. And yet they're somewhere else this morning. Now, they might be at another church. They might just be sitting at home. But chances are, nobody has ever invited them. The statistics are amazing of what a personal invitation will do for somebody. Very rarely will somebody not respond positively to a personal invitation. Now, you might be squirming in your seat. I'm shy. I'm an introvert. Maybe I don't know a lot about the faith. What if I invite someone to Mass and they ask me a question and I don't know the answer? There's this awesome thing, it's called Google, and you can just put stuff in there, right? And answers come back. It's amazing, right? And so we have this fear sometimes of inviting other people into this beautiful place, into this beautiful life of the Catholic Church. And that fear can come from shyness, from introversion, right? From lack of knowledge. Maybe you've just never done it before. But the church exists to evangelize. The church exists to go out. And don't believe me, believe the teachings of our church. We have a wonderful pope back in from 1965 to 1978, Paul VI. And Paul VI wrote a beautiful document in 1975 on the topic of evangelization. And this is what he had to say. He said, the church exists to evangelize. That is to say, in order to preach and teach, to be the channel of the gift of grace, to reconcile sinners with God, and to perpetuate Christ's sacrifice in the Mass. That's what we're doing here. Making friends is great. Building community is great. Finding a community you can love and trust is great, and we want to do all of those things. But we also have to be of the mind and thinking about this question, who's not here? Who's not here? And the answer is a lot of people. And who's going to be that channel of grace? Who's going to be the bridge to perhaps invite them here? And the answer is you. The answer is you. Kids and grandkids, coworkers and neighbors, people you go to school with. That channel of grace, the person who's going to invite, and the person who would best invite, the answer is, it's you. And so, back to Paul Harvey. So often, we've gone from being fishers of men to keepers of the aquarium. But the church exists to go out. The church exists to evangelize. And so I simply ask today for an outpouring of the Holy Spirit upon me, upon you, upon our parish, that we would be able to go out without fear, to invite people in to this beautiful life, a life centered around the Eucharist, a life centered on Christ, a life going out to become fishers of men.